We deserve the right to decide who touches us.
Dr. Amy Kavanagh.
The message is really simple. Just ask, don't grab us.
Bringing awareness, education, and teaching.
Yes, we need to talk about the serious side of it and the impact on well-being, but we also need to tell people what to do. They don't know what to do. That's why they're doing it. That's why they grab.
Bridging the message and the conversation into the sighted community.
And by giving people a route in to talk to people and making it pleasant for them is going to improve our experience and our inclusion in the world.
A huge message in just 4 words.
Hashtag just ask, don't grab.
Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson. Today we're talking to Dr. Amy Kavanagh. She's a blogger, an activist, a volunteer, and she started a campaign that is lit up around the world. Hashtag just ask, don't grab. So we hope you enjoy the first part of this 3-part series on Dr. Amy Kavanagh titled Just Ask, Don't Grab. And stay tuned for the second part of this 3-part series where Dr. Amy Kavanagh talks about accepting using a cane and getting onto the Guide Dog UK waiting list. And then the third part in this 3-part series on Dr. Amy Kavanagh, her journey, and the revolutionary changes that accepting your blindness can bring. We hope you enjoy. And for more podcasts with a blindness perspective, be sure to check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com. On Twitter @blindabilities, and download the free Blind Abilities app from the App Store and the Google Play Store. And check out the Blind Abilities skill on your Amazon devices. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Amy Kavanagh. Amy, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day and coming on to Blind Abilities. How are you doing, Amy?
I'm very well. I've just been having a snack. I was a little peckish. I've been so busy today. I didn't have lunch yet.
Well, you go ahead and eat. We'll do the interview between chews. Could you tell our listeners a little bit about your campaign? And I'll say it, just ask, don't grab.
So the campaign was sort of an accident. I love my Twitter and I'd used it for a few years. My previous life, I was an academic and I used to use it for a lot of academic networking. But I became a long white cane user a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. And I loved it. I loved the independence it gave me. But I had this downside that was I got touched a lot every day by strangers. And I was really surprised and I started to share it on social media. I said, people keep grabbing me, for want of a better word. And loads of people came back to me and they said, yeah, me too. I'm blind. I use a wheelchair. I have an assistance dog. I use a walker. I have a walking stick. I get grabbed. I get pushed. I get pulled. And I was like, this is not just me. This is happening to disabled people, not only all over the UK, but all over the world. You know, lots of people in America and Australia, Germany, France, everyone was saying, yep, this is part of my lived existence. And I thought, well, this isn't on. This isn't okay. We deserve the right to decide who touches us. And so I sort of came up with the hashtag kind of jokingly. I said to someone, the message is really simple. Just ask, don't grab us. So the hashtag was born and I started using it, tracking every time I had an incident of the grabbing, the pushing, or the pulling. I tweeted it with the hashtag. People picked it up. They ran with it. They used it when they had incidents. And gradually it started to get more and more attention and some media attention. And yeah, about 2 months later, I now don't have time for lunch.
I read that it even took to the streets, like people are posting stuff and it's getting a lot of awareness.
Yes, it is. So this morning I was doing some filming with a street artist and activist called Dr. D. He's slightly anonymous because he does do, street art. And he doesn't want to, get told off. And I did a radio interview, recorded it a while ago, and it was broadcast on BBC Radio 4 in the UK on Tuesday evening as part of a programme they have, which is specifically for people with vision impairments called In Touch. The interview was broadcast. He told me he was driving. in his car, just had the radio on. He was off to pick up his kids from scout group and heard the interview. And apparently he was like, had his hand on the steering wheel and then was writing the hashtag on his hand as well. It's not the safest driving, I think. Not that I know much about driving anyway.
That's kind of a form of texting, isn't it?
A little bit. So, and then he found me on Twitter. He searched the hashtag. He found me on Twitter. He sent me a message on Tuesday evening. I was in the middle of my women's group pub quiz. And he was like, I want to do this street art for you. And applied on Twitter and said, that would be amazing. I looked at what he did. And he said, where do you want me to put it? And I said, well, these are the big, train stations, public transport areas that I use. It'd be great to have some around there. And then by Wednesday mid-morning, these chalk stenciled messages were all over the pavements in London. And then this morning, another news channel picked it up and we did an interview. Dr. D, the artist, and myself did an interview all about the campaign and all about what he does. Really nice guy, was just saying, this is a great way to raise awareness of a good cause. He does lots of sort of different bits with this art activism, as well as running a business through it. Just a really nice guy and wanted to make a difference and saw that, the idea of having it like on the street, on the pavement or sidewalk, right in front of a train station entrance or right by a big road junction was perfect, because people, as they're walking, they're going to see this message which reads, want to help a disabled passenger, hashtag just ask, don't grab. They're going to be intrigued by it. And I saw it today. He did one today for the camera. And the minute he put it down, people were looking at it, people were stopping, people were taking photographs. And he said, actually, that's the funny thing. This has come off social media is the reason he's done it. And he said the way that it'll actually spread is people will put it back on social media, that they've seen this thing in the physical real world. It's been taken to the streets and reshare it. And it's kind of like a cool circle that way.
Oh, yeah. It's spreading across the United States, too. So that art and your message, the hashtag just ask, don't grab, it's really something that digs in deep with people who have become blind or are blind, visually impaired, because everyone experiences it. That grab, that right. Sudden jerk to your arm or something, like they're going to grab you like a sack of potatoes and do what they think is best for you. But how did you get to that point? You made it all the way downtown. You made it all the way to the point of your destination. Where was this person when you left your home,
Yeah, somebody said to me, do they think we beamed down from out of space and just are suddenly at the top of a set of stairs? Mm-hmm. Like, how did they think we got there? And I think, in all honesty, it's been a difficult, it's ridiculous and annoying to say this, but it's been a difficult message to kind of get the tone right, because unfortunately, a lot of people who are non-disabled do see disabled people as incapable, vulnerable, unable to do things. We're slapped with that label, and they think in some ways that it's their right to intervene and help us. And that if we resist that, we're ungrateful, we're rude, we're not allowed to disagree with their intention to help us. And actually, that's a really damaging message, in my opinion, because that says to me that disabled people don't have the right to have consent. And I think taking this a step further, considering the political situation, especially in America at this very moment, by saying a whole group of people don't have the right to consent who touches them is not okay, right? If we all have a right to say who touches us, when, and on what terms. So it's really important to me that people understand that this isn't just about being nice or being kind. It's also about respecting independence, respecting autonomy, and respecting people's bodies.
That's a great point, because so many people out there feel like they're going to go get their Boy Scout merit badge or something and pin it on their thing, like their good deed for the day.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure you've had people say it to you, don't they? They say, oh, you're my good deed for the day. And you think, piss off. Like, how dare you? I'm a human being. I'm not, sticking coins in a charity box. And I think that is what is frustrating. But like I say, I've had to handle it carefully, because if you come off like that, angry, cross, either in the moment or on social media through the campaign, no one's going to listen. They're just going to be like, oh, it's just this angry blind lady. So the real delicate handling of it has been, and the truth of it has been, giving people the instructions, the guidance, and the information to do what they want to do, right? They want to help. And it's educating, exactly. They want to help. And that's really important because we do need it occasionally, right? We've all had that moment where we're in the train station, we're in the supermarket, we're made a wrong turn, got disorientated and turned around. And we need someone just to, let us take their arm, go across that road, find that cereal box in the supermarket, whatever you're doing. Do you need some help? And it's great. It happened today. Today, I was going to meet the filming crew and I was at a road. I don't know this road. I don't use it very often. It's not what we call a controlled crossing in the UK, meaning that it has the pedestrian button box and the lights and the walk, don't walk signal that we have. And I can cross those independently by myself because in the UK, they either beep when you can cross safely or they have underneath the button box a little spinning cone that you can feel.
Yep.
And it turns when you can walk. So there's a little button box. Normally, this road didn't have one. And I was waiting at the crossing. It was busy. It was unfamiliar. I was listening for the traffic, but I wasn't feeling confident, to be honest. A lovely chap comes up to me and says, "Would you like a hand crossing the road?" And I said, "Absolutely, yes, please." He took his arm, said, "Can I take your arm?" He said, "Yes." He was great. He said, "Right, we're going to go now. It's safe. We're walking across. Here we are on the other side." Textbook perfect assistance. And it made a huge difference. I was feeling anxious. I was a bit worried about crossing that road. And he did it perfect. And it was lovely. He asked, didn't grab me. It was great. So I think for me, the message has been really strong in the campaign. This is not about discouraging people from offering help. That is the opposite of what I want to do. I want people to offer to give help. Do offer. Do check in. Are you okay? Do you need a hand? Can I offer some assistance? That's great because it gives me, other disabled people, the choice to say yes or no. What I'm discouraging is people just assuming, instantly intervening with their hands, pushing you across a road, pulling you into a train, doing the opposite of their alleged intentions, which is helpful, actually can end up being disorientating, frightening, painful, and can injure people, damage their mobility equipment. I've had countless wheelchair users tell me that their wheelchairs are not designed to be pushed by other people, right? They can move their wheelchair themselves. That's the wheelchair they've chosen. That's what they want to use. And often these kind of wheelchairs, they have little small hidden handles that fold away. And when people can't find the handles that they expect to find on a wheelchair, what do? They push the person in the back. Now, can you imagine if you're a wheelchair user who may have joint pain, who may not have the bodily integrity of someone who is able-bodied? For example, you have a spinal injury and someone pushes you in the back. It's so dangerous. And when you push someone in a wheelchair in the back, you can push them out of the chair, right? And it's just so frustrating and dangerous. And when you cry out in pain because someone's grabbed you, frightened you, and then you get the, "Oh, I'm just trying to help. I was just trying to help." And you think, well, why didn't you ask me? Why did you just jump in there and hurt me or frighten me? And then when I've given you that truth of my response, you're telling me off. You're saying that I'm being ungrateful when you never even checked what I needed. It's so annoying.
And that's kind of the public's limited expectations that they have upon people with disabilities. And this is just probably something, like you said, it started accidentally. You just voiced your opinion and you came up with a hashtag and boom. I bet you've had responses from a lot of people telling their personal stories as well.
Oh, loads of responses, loads, positive and negative. The best, really, and what helped launch the campaign was a British Paralympian wheelchair racer who is now a baroness. She's in our House of Lords, which is the second chamber of government in the UK. Her name is Tanni Grey-Thompson. Some people in the US might have heard of her. She's a pretty famous Paralympian. I think she's like the third most decorated Paralympian in the UK.
Oh, wow.
And she followed me on Twitter and she responded and she said, "Yup, that's happened to me. People have pushed me out of my wheelchair. People have pushed me in the back. It's really painful." And then the other issue that she raised was that people who do ask, and then you say, "Oh no, I'm fine." And especially for a wheelchair user, they travel the world differently. The way that wheelchair users navigate spaces and inclines and doors is different to an able-bodied person for very obvious reasons. And she says people just don't listen. They don't trust her to know. So they'll say, "Oh, I'll push you." And she says, "No, thank you. I can manage myself." And then they just go ahead and push her anyway. They ignore that resistance to the help. And you do have to be firm. We've all done it. You have to be firm sometimes because people will ignore you. I'm sure as another visually impaired person, sometimes you're like, skipping off, trying to escape people because they're chasing up on you to try and get you. I've been halfway down a set of, this is always my favorite, and I'm sure lots of visually impaired blind people have experienced this one. Halfway down a set of stairs, right? You're on the stairs, you're using your cane, or, you're with your assistance dog, and you're halfway down that set of stairs, and someone starts shrieking at you, "Stairs! There's stairs! Let me help you on the stairs!" And you're like, I'm on the stairs, guys. I'm on the stairs. I know about the stairs. Like you could get halfway down a set of stairs and suddenly be like, "Oh heavens, where am I? What's this? I've never experienced stairs in my 30 years of life."
Start yelling back at them. "Oh my gosh, stairs! Where'd these come from?"
Yeah. And then they start grabbing you and you're on the stairs. And then you think, did you not think through how dangerous that is? Stairs is where I get really frightened, if I'm honest. That's where I quite often can't manage to be polite, and I probably do a couple of swears. And escalators in the UK, in the underground tube stations, the metro that we have, there are lots of escalators, and people really panic when they see a blind person going towards an escalator. And as we know, they are very loud. When you're near an escalator because it's clanking away. And like most people who've had orientation and mobility training, I know how to use an escalator safely. But one of the worst grabs I ever had, that really was one of the early ones that got the hashtag going, was I was walking towards an escalator and a woman was like, "Oh, do you need any help?" And I said, "No, thank you." But quite quickly, because I was focusing on feeling my cane, feeling the vibration, and crucially feeling for that edge of the step, the ridge in the metal that lets me know where the steps are going to part when they move. And she's grabbing at me while I'm trying to do this, as I am stepping onto the moving escalator. And I am pulling back and saying, "No, wait, oh, please, can you not?" Like that. She's not listening to me. And I feel myself, start to totter, start to really wobble. I've not got a secure footing. I have no idea where the step is going to part. It is an incredibly steep, high escalator. And I thought, I'm going to die. This woman's going to push me down this escalator and I'm going to die. And I just screamed at her, "Get off me! Stop touching me! Get off me!" Luckily she did, and I managed to grab the handrail and I was okay. But honestly, the adrenaline I had from that lasted for about a week. And people don't realize the impact, do they? They don't know. They don't think how it feels to be suddenly dragged across a road into traffic. And sometimes I wish I could, although this is not an accurate representation of my vision, but it is for many people, I want to put a blindfold on them, or, simulation specs or whatever, and then touch them without telling them and drag them across the road and be like, how did that feel? How did that feel when you were pulled into that road that you could not see? And then imagine being told off for not wanting that experience. It's unbelievable, frankly.
It is. And Amy, this isn't isolated to people out there that aren't showing confidence, that have poor skills. It transitions. It actually, people with great skills, people with utmost confidence, people who are in their daily routine doing the things they do. They're at the stoplight to cross the road, and it can happen to them. So it's not just a sector of the visually impaired or blind. It's just because you're wearing that scarlet letter B and they just see you and it happens.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I worry about as well. And certainly has been part of my journey. When I started first using my white cane, I'd barely been leaving the house for a year. and was not confident. And that's why it had such a big impact on me. And because I was learning to use it a few times a day, just didn't want to use it, didn't want to use the cane, even though I knew it was going to make me more safe. The jeopardy of the grab made me not want to use it. And even now, I feel like that. I feel like, oh, I can't cope today. I haven't got the energy to deal with this today. Maybe I'll just bumble along. I'll probably won't fall over. And when I say that to people, they're so horrified that I feel like abandoning my mobility aid just to avoid being grabbed, that I would actually put myself at more risk to avoid it, is horrific. And that is the impact. And that is what I want people to understand. Like your behavior, there's particular routes that I just avoid now. Like I have to change my life and my routes and where I go because I don't want to be grabbed. And that person doesn't realize the impact it can have on your confidence. And I think about individuals with additional needs who may have a learning disability, as we say in the UK, who would be very lacking in confidence or the ability to communicate conventionally, that they're not consenting to that interaction, and how traumatizing that can be for different parts of the disabled community. For example, people who don't communicate conventionally, who might be deaf or use sign language, and they can't sort of necessarily communicate back in a way that people are open to, that they don't want this interaction. And that opportunity to give and withdraw consent is completely denied to them by lots of people. And that really bothers me. Or older people who are frail or feel confused or feel anxious about going out and about, that if they're being grabbed and manhandled, these actions are achieving, and this is what I keep saying, it's achieving exactly the opposite of the intention. The first defense, as I said, is always, I'm being kind, I'm being nice, I'm helping. But what you did is you just helped that disabled person stay at home today because they were too frightened to go out. Or you really helped that person feel like they can't use that bus route anymore because of how much people put their hands on them when they do it. And that can be the impact. And that's why it's serious.
Mm-hmm. It's just 4 words, hashtag just ask, don't grab. But it's a book. You can write a whole book on this.
I know, right? I feel like, blog posts, interviews, podcasts, TV segments, every little bit contributes. The message grows, the importance grows, and that's really important for me.
Well, you're putting it out there. Everyone's gone through it. Everyone talks about it. It's always talked about. But you put it out there on social media, and everyone's grabbing onto that.
Yeah.
And they're doing the big ask from you to talk more about it. I'm so glad that you came on Blind Abilities here to talk about it, because we're going to get this out there. And I hope more people start using the hashtag just ask, don't grab.
Oh, me too. Like, please do use it. Like, share your experiences. And the most important thing I will say is share your experiences that are negative and positive. That's what I do. Mm-hmm. Because if you just complain, you're not educating people. Yes, you're raising awareness of the issue. Yes, we need to talk about the serious side of it and the impact on well-being, but we also need to tell people what to do. They don't know what to do. That's why they're doing it. That's why they grab. Okay, we can go into all the complicated ways that disability is viewed in society. We probably don't have time for that, but that impulse to grab is coming from a place of instinct to want to intervene for whatever agenda. Now, if people feel the urge to intervene, sometimes it's not appropriate. However, we can make it the most pleasant intervention possible by encouraging them to ask. And also, importantly, to start conversations with disabled people.
That's great.
In the UK, 1 out of 4 adults actively avoids conversations with disabled people. That was a survey done by a charity organisation here. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same in all different parts of the world. Disability frightens people. They see it as difference. They don't understand it. And they are so frightened of allegedly offending us that they won't even talk to us. And by giving people a route in to talk to people and making it pleasant for them is going to improve our experience and our inclusion in the world. When that person makes that offer to you in that moment that you need it, when you're feeling a bit worried, or if you need a little hand with something, it can make a huge amount of difference. And people who are feeling isolated, people who are struggling, that offer of help will mean the world. And it also means that the non-disabled person who's gone in to help with you can start a conversation, can have a positive experience, will definitely go and tell all their friends about it, because they may slightly problematically want to celebrate what a good job they did. And they might tweet about it, or they might put it on Facebook. And then more people think, oh, disabled people aren't these scary different things. They're just humans like all of us. Newsflash. And it will make people feel more included. And you know what else it helps with? You see a disabled person not able to access something, right? The ramp isn't there at the station. The button's in the wrong place. The announcements aren't clear. There's only visual information. And the more people engage with assisting us against barriers of inaccessibility, the more they notice those barriers. And that's when they can campaign. That's when they can join us fighting for those rights of access that we deserve.
That's great. That's a bigger picture to look at.
Mm-hmm. It's got wings, I'm telling you.
And it has been. You know, creating hashtags is not your only occupation.
No. Yeah, although it feels a bit full-time at the moment.
Oh, yeah, it's great. And you have a blog, and I saw your Cane Adventures blog, and I was reading on, which is a great blog. I love your reading. And I got hooked up on this one about guide dogs. Can you explain about the guide dog situation? That you're in wait, aren't you?
Yes, I'm on a waiting list. So Cane Adventures is a blog, kind of developing it at the moment. I might need to do a little bit more writing for it, because I've been campaigning and writing and working and volunteering and socializing and everything else. So I have more, blog posts that I'm going to add. But it's a blog about mainly my experience of being a visually impaired person. The title comes from the hashtag that I used when I was first learning how to use my cane, and started documenting how suddenly being a cane user changed my experience of the world, and how people interact with me and how I interact with the world. And so a recent post that I did, which was really important to me actually to get that message out there, is all about my experience with Guide Dogs UK.
Great. And they'll be able to see that on part 2 of this 3-part series. Amy, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing all your stories, your journeys, and your experiences with us on Blind Abilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
It was such a great time meeting and talking to Dr. Amy Kavanagh, and be sure to tune in for the next 2 parts of this series, this 3-part series, where Dr. Amy Kavanagh will talk about her introduction to the cane, her signing up at Guide Dogs UK, and in part 3, her journey and the revelations she found when she accepted her blindness. Be sure to check out her blog at caneadventures.blog. Follow her on Twitter at blondehistorian. And remember, if you're out in public and you get grabbed, pushed, or shoved, share it on Twitter and use the hashtag #JustAskDon'tGrab. And once again, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed. And until next time, bye-bye.
When we share
what we see through
each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap
between the limited expectations and the realities of blind abilities.
The realities of blind abilities.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities. Download our app from the App Store, blindabilities, that's 2 words, or send us an email at info@blindabilities.com. Thanks for listening.